Although week 13 was a fun one for real football, the DFS side of things not nearly as fun because not just a lot of key upsetting quarterback injuries, but also a lot of just bad performances from running backs where there was almost no scoring at that position on the whole. We're going to break down what that means going forward, the impact of these key injuries, and get you set for the week 14 main slate over on FanDuel by taking a look at salaries over there. This is the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gdula. He is the senior managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, week 13 is largely in the books. How you doing today?
Not too bad. Not the best week for me with how my lineups fared, but we had some fun games. I got to show my wife another Vikings game. It's kind of a bit now where I walk upstairs from the gym when the Vikings are inevitably got something weird going on, and I say, you want to see a crazy end to another Vikings game? And then so we got one of those, but it happens every single week, it seems like.
Yeah. I bet the Jets in that game. Oopsies. Yeah. It was a weird week for sure. I think probably my worst week of the year if you exclude the Sunday night single game slate. Like, just running back was bad. And if there is a week where running back is bad, given my tendency to always, to a fault, have running back in the flex on FanDuel, I'm not going to have a good week. And that was the case this week. So I made some mistakes. I don't think it was just like variance. It was a week where you needed to capture upside, and I didn't pick the right guys to have upside. I knew that I was trying to find upside. I just was not successful in that endeavor. So we'll break down what went wrong, what we can learn from it, what we can do heading into week 14, and hopefully get you set to, at least for me, I'm going to try to bounce back in week 14. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have week 14 full preview coming up on Thursday. Before then, though, Tom Vecchio. So talking NBA DFS every weekday. Get that by subscribing to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Looking to get more out of this NFL season? Well, now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to touchdown scores to over-under yards. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in free bets when you join FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WIN-IT. In Kansas and Wyoming, 1-800-522-4700, or in Kansas, ksgamblinghelp.com. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In Maryland, mdgamblinghelp.org. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Or in West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Let's kick things off here with the biggest headline of week number 13. That, of course, is, unfortunately, the Jimmy Garoppolo injury. He broke his foot and is done for the year, according to Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy will take over at quarterback. Purdy, in relief of Garoppolo on Sunday, averaged 0.06 passing net expected points per dropback, 8 out of 5.3 yards. That is 2021 Jimmy-esque. Not 2022. Jimmy's been a bit more downfield heavy this year. Completion percentage over expectation, negative 0.9% for Purdy. Deebo Samuel had 10 targets from Purdy. Christian McCaffrey had 9. Brandon Ayuk 7. McCaffrey specifically had a really big role here. 17 carries, 10 targets, 146 yards in scrimmage. So Purdy's a downgrade from Garoppolo for sure. We can say that definitively. But McCaffrey, it seems like he'll get pushed now, given they kind of don't have any choice but to lean on him. Maybe they lean on Debo a bit more. Is the downgrade from Garoppolo to Purdy big enough for you to push McCaffrey and Debo out of play at their likely salaries?
It lowers them a little bit, and it makes it a little bit more script dependent. We talked about McCaffrey having some interest there, but didn't quite, fully rank him, I'd say inside like our top 6, unless I'm speaking out of turn there for you. I've been, for any long-time listeners, they'll find it funny, but I've been tracking Debo's usage and find him interesting lately, but it's not really a situation that I'm going to envision a whole lot of spots where I'm actively targeting these guys. And I can't really think about this offense without like looking ahead specifically to what they got next week. And they play the Buccaneers. Buccaneers will be on a short week, but that total's 37.5 points. I don't know how low the salary for McCaffrey would have to be for me to want to load up on him. And I'm also not going to stack that game.
Yeah.
And so I don't really envision a way that I'm going to have much interest. So name me a salary for McCaffrey, because I think he's the most interesting talking point because he's a running back.
And it's a lot of usage too.
Yeah.
So, okay. A lot of usage for a running back.
81% snap rate, 78% route rate for a running back last week.
Yeah. And he's in a dynamic sorry, not dynamic. He's used in dynamic ways.
Yes. Yeah.
He is used in dynamic ways. So he's kind of like you can push back on this cop if you want, but I would say that he has shades of Jonathan Taylor, but in a different like route to the way he's used, and I think better usage. If we have JT 85 or so, I would say McCaffrey, even with the downgrade at quarterback, if they're going to use him this way, should probably be about 88. And if you were to say, no, Jim, you're wrong, he should be 83, I'd have a hard time pushing back on that. But I feel like with the way he's used, 88 is probably an appropriate salary, even after accounting for Garoppolo being out.
So I don't know what your numbers have like the Buccaneers at, but in a neutral situation, I'd say about 85. In this game specifically with such a low total.
Yeah, that's probably
83.
And I wasn't thinking specifically about the Buccaneers. You're right. I should have counted for that. I would say that bumps him down to 85 for me.
So I guess what it's sounding like we're hoping for is we're probably not going to play a whole lot of McCaffrey for week 14.
Yeah.
Just weird to wrap my head around saying week 14, like looking ahead for just next week. But maybe the role's great again. The production not quite there.
Right.
I don't know who they play with
in the future.
I don't know who they would play, but I'm open to it, but only in better games because I would worry that their offense struggles.
Yeah, I like Purdy he's kind of Bailey Zappi-ish in a lot of ways, where physical limitations, but he's like smart. Like his like first year at Iowa State, he's the reason Hakeem Butler got drafted like super high because he like balled out. If you remember that name. Yeah. That was like his first year. Hakeem Butler left, and then he and Breece Hall just kind of, Purdy never really took a step forward, but like he has like some kind of processing capability. So like he's smart, just not like physically gifted. So I don't think the offense will collapse. Like I was putting in my projections for the team's efficiency in my like betting model, and like I've still got them being like okay. Like they're below average offensively, but like they're okay. I don't think the bottom will fall out, but it's still tough to get super jazzed about a running back against a very tough defense in a very low total game when they're not a great offense.
Yeah, and this is not like we're not going to play them next week. Week 15, they're Thursday night against Seattle. So I kind of think like I'm just grateful that I don't have to be tempted on the main slate very often.
Yeah.
So
there will be some like fear of getting burned next week. But like
at 85, there still is, because McCaffrey's played on terrible teams. So we've looked at like his performance in low total games.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could get toasted here, but I feel like Tampa Bay's usually been some of his down games throughout his like Panthers career. So they might be able to figure out ways to limit him. But What about Debo, real quick?
I don't know. I just like it's probably going to be a. I just don't think there'll be a lot of explosion. So like, what's his like upside scenario? Like my checklist is 85 yards or 2 touchdowns. He could do that. Like I know he can do that for sure. But like, can he get 130? I don't know. It's tough. And I kind of want that to be the upside as a receiver. Like the 85 or 2 touchdowns is a bare minimum for like a value play.
Yeah, and again, any longtime listeners who are really invested in like our Debo conversation will probably find this funny. Like the low ADOT for Purdy is a problem. Now, Debo had 3 downfield targets, which for me is 10 plus yards downfield. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's going to be as much downfield usage. So it just makes it harder and harder for Debo to get there. And I was thinking about the Jonathan Taylor comp. I think it's like appropriate for McCaffrey specifically, but like also this team has so many other options that like McCaffrey could put up 150 yards and they just the touchdowns don't go his way. So
although 150 yards with no touchdowns is still a pretty good day. Like it's not gonna
I know, but with Taylor, like if he has a big game, I feel like the touchdowns are there because of what his role is. So
that's true. Although McCaffrey had 8 out of 10 red zone chances on Sunday. Like
that's sick, but
I don't know.
We think he's at a fair salary for next week, and we're roughly on the same page here.
He is 85. I don't know if we said that, but he is 85 for next week. Okay, talk about some other injuries from week number 13. Starting off with Kenneth Walker, the third, ruled out due to an ankle injury. Apparently it's a jammed ankle, whatever that means. Travis Homer was inactive for this game. DJ Dallas was dealing with an ankle injury. They deemed him doubtful, but he did return, so clearly they were desperate, which probably doesn't bode well for Tony Jones. Dallas led with a 49% snap rate, 10 carries, 1 target. Jones, 7 carries, 4 targets. But again, they used a guy who was on a bad ankle over him. Not ideal. Homer got into limited practice on Friday, so he may be good to go for the next game. Maybe Walker is too. I don't know what a jammed ankle is, so maybe he's good to go. Would you look to avoid this backfield if Walker misses time?
Yeah. I don't think that they would lean on anyone as much as they would lean on Walker. Apparently a jammed ankle is like a sprain that's not side to side, but like vertical.
How's that a thing?
I don't know. It's apparently fairly rare, but no, they would. I think that they would just keep throwing it to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and rotate in these backs. I feel. I don't know. If
I do think it would make them more pass heavy, which is fun. Like you were talking about on Thursday about how they had been pretty pass heavy. Maybe they skew even more that direction. Because Geno he had a bad pick, but he played well, really well in that game. I know they didn't win by a lot, but like Geno was good.
Yeah. I don't know if this will make sense, but I feel like there are so many names in the Seattle backfield that have like rotated in and out throughout the years, and they've all been injured. I feel like they're like the Giants receivers of the running back position, where it's like, I know these names, but I don't actually know who's active because they're not that relevant. And like, our job is to know everyone.
I track Travis Homer like a dog, so you're on an island there.
But at a certain point, it's okay to cross situations off, and I think that this would be one of them.
I think Dallas would get the early down work. Homer would get all the pass catching work, maybe some early down stuff, and that's enough where I'd be out for sure if Walker misses time. Lamar Jackson ruled out in the first half due to a knee injury. Doesn't sound like it'll be a long-term thing. Tyler Huntley came in, was decent. He averaged 0.06 passing net expected points per dropback. Demarcus Robinson had 8 targets after Huntley came in. Mark Andrews had 6. Devin Duvernay had a pass attempt, which was not good. He had 4 targets. Isaiah Likely also had 4. And we saw a lot of Huntley last year. We got a good sample on him. He did win some games. He had some pop games for DFS because of his rushing, but he was at negative 0.12 passing net expected points per dropback. And that was with both Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman in the mix, and they're no longer there. So Huntley's solid for a backup, but a very clear downgrade from Lamar Jackson. And we weren't super enthused about these guys in this offense to begin with. So how will you view, I guess it's how are you going to view Mark Andrews and Huntley if Lamar misses time?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the main slate's going to look like next week. I believe it's a 10-game slate, so we're going to have...
It's weird. It's weird, yeah.
So we're going to have just fewer options, and we're going to have to be a little bit more open to taking some chances. Baltimore's pass rate over expectation, minus 3.1% this week. About normal for them, not a huge deviation. So they kind of keep the same offense, but downgrade the efficiency because Lamar's a really good quarterback. I think that Mark Andrews was sort of teetering on playability. I'm realizing now that I'm wearing a Ravens hat, but for anyone watching, I'm not a Ravens fan, so this is like not.
I constantly get emails from NFL.com about like, buy your Lamar Jackson jersey, because I bought you that hat because I lost a bobblehead against you.
It's just a great hat, so
I don't want those emails. I think I unsubscribed. I don't know. I need to be better about that. But yeah, I'll buy a Tyler Huntley jersey if he wins me some money.
But yeah, with Mark Andrews, he was sort of bordering on, because like this team was not converting on like what should have been better efficiency.
Yeah. I had zero exposure this week, and right. I had no FOMO with that either.
Yeah, and part of it was the defense that they were facing with Denver, but also part of it is the offense itself. The backfield's like mixed up again with Kenyon Drake getting more work. So like,
and J.K. Dobbins likely back next week. So
very similar situation to like, again, the Giants receivers, a bit better for sure. But also, like, what's the point of really sweating it for DFS because we're not playing these guys anyway?
Their implied total next week is 18.25, which ranks third highest on the main slate. They're facing Pittsburgh, a 1.5 point favorite, which just means they're assuming that Huntley's playing, or 1.5 point dog, I should say. So Huntley's going to play, it sounds like. And
38 point total. That's tough. A lot of low totals.
Yep, there definitely are. Going to be great. Aaron Jones missed some time due to a shin injury, and he was clearly limited throughout the game in the second half, specifically. A.J. Dillon, pretty efficient in relief, 18 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. He had 3 targets for 26 yards. Dillon, 67% snap rate. Now, Jones was questionable to returned, was on the field for like a second during the third quarter, but they didn't get an official playoff. So no official plays during the third quarter. Played 5 snaps in the fourth quarter, 2 of which were on kneel downs for some reason. So Aaron Jones came into this game with a shin injury. Like, he missed some time in practice last week with a shin injury. After one of his fourth quarter runs, grabbed his shin. I think this is a thing, and it doesn't seem great, but they still have 4% playoff odds. If you look at 538 playoff odds. So like, they could still make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is still there. How are you in this backfield if we assume that Jones keeps playing while clearly being hobbled?
Yeah. The really weird thing for me, cause you sent me and JJ Zacharias in a Slack message that said like Jones, like holding a shin or something like that. And I was like, which Jones? Like, cause there are a lot of Joneses in play, but I was like, I don't think Aaron Jones is playing in the second half. And so then I went and looked at the play-by-play at the end of the game, and the very minimal second half usage, but to see him out there as the guy, because they were basically on the goal line almost. He was the guy that they had on the goal line in case they fumbled the snap for the kneel down. It's like, is he hurt? Because if he's hurt, you probably don't want him there. Or are they limiting him on purpose to keep him healthier? So I don't really see how this morphs into Aaron Jones is just Aaron Jones next week.
Right.
We did see Travis Etienne last week, as in week 12, could have returned, but didn't have to, and then played like all the snaps this week. So I guess maybe there's a path to that, but in fairness to A.J. Dillon, he's more involved and a little bit better than like what the Jaguars can do. So I don't think I can play Aaron Jones. I don't know if it's enough for me to play A.J. Dillon though. So I'm probably just out.
So Jones in practice this week was limited, did not have an injury designation, but that says like they're limiting him. Like they want, and that was for a shin injury. So I'm pretty sure this is like last week, the exact same thing. Entering week 12, the exact same thing. When is the last time he didn't have this? Because like he played through it at a full, limited week 11, week 10. Just gonna keep on going back. Aaron Jones, limited in week 10. That was with an ankle, not a shin. So he's been playing through this, and he's been playing well. He's been playing a lot of snaps. Last time he was not on the injury report was week 9. He's had a lot of snaps despite that, but it seems like he aggravated it in this game because he did get like an injury designation of like, questionable to return. He did grab his shin, hardly played at all in the second half. So I think this is a legit thing.
Does
I think I
it
agree with you
change
where
anything to know that they're on bye next week?
I don't think it changes the way I view the way he was used.
Yeah.
It does make me want to monitor what his practice involvement is in week 4, heading into week 15. Because if he winds up getting in some practices heading into week 15, like full practices, then I'm like, okay, cool, we're good to go. But I doubt it.
Can they flex a Monday night game?
I wish. I think they talked about that at some point. I don't think it actually happened, but
So in week 15, so they go by week 15 and they
wait,
play
is that one of the Broncos games?
No, they host the
Oh,
Rams.
Yeah, sorry, the Rams. The Rams have like 4 straight primetime games.
Gosh. So I guess again, like we primarily look at players on the main slate for next week and give that like a little bit more weight, but we're not going to see Aaron Jones on the main slate for till week 16. No, even then they play one of the 3 games on Christmas Day. So like
deuces. Talk to you later, bud. I love you. Full respect. Get healthy. We'll talk to you next year.
Yeah, we'll meet you. Next year, next fall, we'll catch back up.
It'd be a good time. Get healthy. I love Aaron Jones. Yeah. I used him a lot on Sunday. Didn't go well, obviously. That was a big part of why. Underwhelmed, but hopefully he gets better. Cortland Sutton suffered a hamstring injury and didn't return for the Broncos. The Broncos just 24 dropbacks all game, so not a ton of volume to go around here. Passes were funneled toward Greg Dulcich. He had 8 targets on 19 routes. 85 yards. That's good. Jerry Jeudy ran just 8 routes. He didn't return to practice until Friday. Got an limited session there and did play. But those 8 routes turned into 4 targets and 65 yards. Kendall Hinton tied with Dulcich for a team lead with 19 routes run, but he earned just 1 target. So we hate this offense. We were not super enthused about Cortland Sutton even when Jerry Jeudy was out. So Sutton misses time. Are you into Dulcich or Jeudy?
I think I'd just be okay with Dulcich because he's a tight end, and tight end is just a huge mess. But I'm not gonna like love it.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if Jerry Jeudy is gonna. Are they gonna like? But yeah, I mean, if we're not using Sutton heavily, like, what are we? I think they're both very, very good. I'm not gonna like pick one or the other. So I think I'm just out. This team can't score.
Chiefs next week.
Is this team still maxed out at 23 points?
Oh, they scored 9 on Sunday. So yeah.
No, I mean like I think 23 has been their high water mark. I was looking at whatever the Pro Football Reference subscription, like the detailed query thing is now.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. But they're like bottom 11 in points scored through 13 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 13 games.
I believe it.
Like in NFL history.
Dulcich is 54. Not out of play.
No.
I don't know.
What's Jeudy?
I don't also care. 65. That's too high.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Keep the cross off. Mike Boone came back, didn't play a ton, but like it's enough where I'm not touching Latavius Murray. Treylon Burks got hit in the head early and was ruled out with a concussion. What? Are you disagreeing with me on Latavius?
His workload's really good. He's playing the Chiefs.
I'd rather get punched in the face by Latavius Murray than use Latavius Murray in DFS. Treylon Burks got hit in the head early with a concussion, was ruled out. Despite the early exit for Burks and a negative game script, no Titan really went off. Nobody had more than 5 targets. Chika Okonkwo had 68 yards. He's the only guy who had more than Burks' 25 yards. Okonkwo did play more than half the snaps for the first time this year. Ran around on 19 of 32 dropbacks. So still not perfect, but it's something. Does this injury to Burks open up any interest in Okonkwo for you?
Okonkwo, they get the Jaguars next week.
That could be a fun game. I know the total's 42.5, but I think that's intriguing. We have to dumpster dive, so like bear with me. But
I'm sorry, I'm just jumping ahead to tight end real fast. So we have Kelsey and Andrews on the slate. But
we don't really have Andrews, though. I know that he did a lot with Huntley last year, but I don't.
Also, I finally was able to get up to Travis Kelsey in a main lineup this week.
How'd that go?
Loved it. I would probably be okay punting with him, but only if like it's a true punt and like the salary is like 5,000 or lower.
48.
Oh boy, I like it.
5 targets in back-to-back games. They have no juice. Robert Woods ain't doing that for you.
No.
Nick Westbrook-Akina ain't doing that for you. They don't earn targets either. So it's a game that I don't hate. Yeah, he's very high in yards per hour, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like yards after the catch.
Yeah. I think that he is viable. I'm not saying he is like someone I'd seek out, but he is viable, and I'm open to it, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully Burks is okay. I bet he misses next week, though, because that looked bad. So that didn't look good. Hope he feels okay. Quez Watkins suffered a shoulder injury and didn't return. Doesn't sound like it'll be a long-term thing, but things were already super concentrated here. A.J. Brown led with 10 targets. Devontae Smith had 8. Watkins had 6 before his injury. Brown and Smith both had huge production and just like sick plays across the board. They're playing the Giants next week. That's not a bad game. We were high on this team already. How high is too high to be on them entering that Giants game?
I don't really think there's like a way to be too high necessarily. It's just two receivers who get 50% roughly of the work, and I guess eventually I'll have to come up with a different comp, but like that's classic DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but with a quarterback who was more playable than Russ, like in his
it's true.
So I mean, like I'm not using Miles Sanders or any of the running back pieces, but
like we're gonna need upside on next week's slate. We're gonna need upside. We're gonna need guys who can score a lot of points.
Yeah.
Where else are you gonna go? Like, I think that they're perfect for that. So name me a salary on all 3 guys: Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith.
Hurts probably like 89.
I was gonna say 9,000, but yeah, I think that's right in there.
Brown will probably be like 87, 88 after what he did this week.
I'd say 83 for him is where I'd put him.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd probably put him at like 85, but which I know is the game we play, so I should have. And then Smith, 75.
I was thinking 75 or 73. I initially had 75, went down to 73. I think that's fair. Okay, so Hurts is 87. Awesome. We have a quarterback we can use. He's a borderline write down, I think, personally. I think that's almost like, it's not like because of the salary, but because of the combination of upside and like acceptable salary.
Yeah.
AJ Brown is 84.
Okay.
Why is Amon-Ra has a higher salary than AJ Brown? I find that a little bit odd. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's a little... Anyway, Devontae is 7,000. So for the 17th consecutive week, I will have an aggressive amount of Devontae Smith. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I love using Devontae Smith. So like a Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith stack, sign me up, baby. That's very doable this week.
Yeah, he had a 21% target share this week. Before that, leading in single games, 32, 39, 36%. So...
And like the raw target numbers, very good across the board. And he's a good football player too.
Yeah.
Like his yardage was boosted by like a garbage, like at the end of the first half, they like dumped it off to him and he ran like 35 yards, which I was very happy about, but like, that's fine. Outside of that too, he's good. So that's going to be a team we focus on Thursday. Hayden Hurst suffered a calf injury and did not return. They got Jamar Chase back, though. He led with 8 targets and finished with 97 yards. 3 of those targets were deep. T. Higgins, 5 targets for 35 yards, 1 deep target there. Samaje Perine, 21 carries and 7 targets for 155 yards without Joe Mixon. He's the best. Mitchell Wilcox earned a lot of snaps with no Hurst, but just got 1 target. He's not super athletic, so I'm not super enticed by that. And it might just be one less guy on the team who can earn targets. Maybe that boosts Tyler Boyd, but he had an awful drop and I'm mad at him. So he's not getting a Christmas card. So what's your view of the Bengals now that Chase is back and Hurst potentially out?
Love them.
Yeah.
Love these guys, man. How could you not?
Well, that was weird. I don't like that. But like, what reason would you have not to like this offense? They're playing well. They're playing the Browns next week. I know like the Texans didn't do anything, but that's the Texans. This is the freaking Bengals, man. Like, my numbers say they should be favored by more than 4.5, which is the line right now. Like, I feel like the Bengals and the Eagles are the premier offenses on the main slate next week. Maybe Dallas against Houston, but that's not going to be a back and forth affair. This game, Bengals, baby. I think they're fun.
Yeah. Give me a salary for Chase and Higgins. And would you rather stack the Bengals or the Eagles?
I think the Eagles would be more affordable.
Just
because I don't think, yeah.
Well,
my hope would be to have Devontae in there regardless, and maybe stack the Bengals too. But
yeah.
So I think the Chase's salary should be around. He was like 89 this week. That was a little high. I used him, but it was only in game stacks. I think he should be about 86.
He's 87. I think that's fair.
Okay, that's cool. I think that so T was 83. I think he'll go down because he didn't do a whole lot this week. He still has like monster upside though, and I want to keep that in mind. So I'd say 81 for T Higgins.
I would have said probably 8,000, but he's 78.
Sick. So a T Devontae lineup, I think that's kind of where I want to live next week. Like that's pretty good. Hoping we get some value at running back.
Yeah, that's my hope. But
yeah, if Mixon comes in at 85 again. So and like I think so you asked last week would I downgrade Mixon when he comes back because of P Ryan playing well? We might be getting to that point just because like if you have two good guys, why would you not use both of them? You know?
Yeah, and this team has playoff hopes. Yeah. They don't need to run Joe Mixon into the ground. So
yeah. P Ryan 78. Like I would if Mixon were to somehow not get back, I'd happily use P Ryan again. But Burrow's salary next week, 83, again, very usable. I think that I was pretty low on the main slate next week coming in because I was like, okay, we're going to find upside. But like Hurts and Burrow both have acceptable salaries, both have good spots in terms of upside. So I feel better about it now. And having Devontae Smith and T Higgins both in the 7,000 range, I think that makes me feel pretty good too.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at? Okay, cool.
All right. I was scrolling through the FanDuel Sportsbook odds and I saw because again we don't really like look at the slate ahead of time. I was like, oh, Houston at Dallas, what's that spread? 17 and it's 16.5. So
my like new betting model I can update like earlier than the other one. It says the Cowboys should be favored by 19. I don't have like back testing on this new one to like reveal whether or not it's good on those margins, but that's where we're at. It's a 19-point spread over there for that one. We'll see how that goes. Let's dig into role changes here and talk about the Browns with Deshaun Watson. They struggled. First game for Watson coming off an 11-game suspension for 24 lawsuits alleging sexual assault or harassment. Watson finished with negative 0.38 passing net expected points per dropback on 22 dropbacks. They were also pretty run heavy with a 46% early down first half pass rate. This makes sense given the long layoff, given, stuff like that. It's not awe-inspiring though, given the matchup, given how good the offense was with Jacoby Brissett. Amari Cooper ran a lot of routes. Nobody else had more than 3 targets. Amari had 8 targets. Nobody else had more than 3 with David Njoku inactive. They threw just 22 times. I put 28 targets in the note sheet.
I assume that was me. I have Amari with 9 targets on 23 routes.
Okay. Well, either way. So we knew that a dud was within the range of outcomes. We always knew that could happen coming off of a 700-day layoff. But now they go into a game with the Bengals next week where we probably need to give long thought to this Browns offense. What does that do to you in terms of that game where we need them to perk back up in a hurry?
Yeah, so Cleveland's pass rate over expectation on pass and run plays for week 13, minus 15.2%. The week prior was minus 13.7%. It's usually not quite that aggressive for this team. It is one of the more run-heavy teams in football, obviously, but I don't know if they will try to lean on the run while Watson gets back up to speed. I know playing in Houston, they probably just wanted to limit him, but
Yeah.
he had a really bad pick in the end zone, as if he didn't see that defender standing
He
right in
played
front of him.
terrible.
He was awful. My main fear is that this team will just try to establish the run and kind of ruin that game for next week.
Yeah.
Now, whether they can fully do that is sort of its own question. Their record's not ideal, but I guess they won 2 straight, 3 of the past 5. So they're what?
I had no idea that they were actually winning games. I know that they won and covered yesterday. That's
I was
they don't feel like that.
I was I know the record's not good, and then I looked and so I'm not playing Watson. I'm not playing the pass catchers.
Would you go at DPJ if Njoku sits again?
For game stacks only.
He's 61 again. The process behind playing him this week was that he would return a punt return, punt for a touchdown. That knew that was fully planned. Amari's salary is 73. That's the best he's been. Lowest salary he's had in a long time.
Yeah.
His road Amari, though. We're not allowed to use him on the road. I don't know if you heard. Did get a question from King J over on YouTube about Nick Chubb about how we handle him after a disappointing game where they were facing off with the Texans, where it should have been like a Chubb type scenario. I think I don't want to downgrade Chubb too much because they didn't have the ball ever. They scored 17 defensive or special teams touchdowns, which really suppresses volume. So I wasn't getting to Chubb at 96. That was way too high. I think that I would need Chubb to come down to this is going to sound like a lot, and he's never going to get there. But I need Chubb to come down to 83 to use him. I just don't think he'll ever get there.
He's 84.
Oh, surprising. Still not a priority, but at least he's less egregious than he was.
Yeah, I mean, I have issues with Nick Chubb just because he's so one-dimensional, and if this team's going to be run heavy, that leads to even fewer chances of getting receiving work. So he had 80 yards on 17 carries. Next Gen Stats had him expected for 58.7. So, 21 yards over expectation, 1.3 per carry.
So he got worse relative to what he's usually been.
He is. They should rename rushing yards over expectation. Just
Chubb's over expectation. That sounds sexual. We should name it that. But
he is by far and away the best running back in football by that measure since 2016, since they've incorporated that. But again, he's just a guy. He plays 50% of the snaps. He gets a lot of rushing work. He has the potential for 130 and 2 touchdowns anytime he's on the field. But I think you make a good point with the play volume here and just the general flow of the game with all the defensive scoring. But if we can't bank on the efficiency so much, there's not going to be as much red zone work. So I think the question isn't are you worried about Nick Chubb? It's, do you think Deshaun Watson will get better and how quickly? Yeah, and if he's really good next week, Nick Chubb at 84 is a really good play.
Yeah. How many times do we see guys get their salaries lowered $1,100 or $1,200 without an injury?
Not very often.
I mean, part of it was his salary was egregious this past week.
It was because it was protecting for the matchup, correct, in a sense,
which I get. Yeah, but I think that's interesting. I'll dig into him more this week, I think, just because that's very interesting. The Bears got Justin Fields back, and his rushing workload scaled back. You wouldn't know because he had a 97-yard touchdown, it seems like. But he ran it 6 times. Fewest rushes for him in a game all season. 70 yards, 1 yard on touchdown still, because of course. But he had 12 or more carries in 5 of 6 games prior to this. Along with a decrease in rushing volume, though, came a season high in passing yards at 254. It was the first game with no Darnell Mooney. Cole Kmet had 7 targets. Chase Claypool had 6. David Montgomery had 5. So Chicago's on bye next week. So Fields has time to heal up. Does this change the way you value Fields, knowing that he may not run as much, but also that the passing is a little bit better? Or do you think maybe he'll scale back up after the bye?
It's really tough because there's no reason for him to be running the ball at this point with their season the way that it is.
Yeah.
I would think it'd probably be somewhere in the middle where he'd get like 6 to 8 carries.
Yeah.
And it, he was like pulling the ball and running with it. He was willing to run.
Right.
I think that there should be then more pass attempts and therefore a higher ceiling in terms of the passing yardage. But again, 254 being your season high is just the second game over 200 all season. I don't know how many 300 yards games he has in his arsenal with the pass catchers that he has. I don't think I think it's partly him, partly the skill position players. So I would need to see that salary like 83 to 84 to like tempt me more. If he's like 88 or 89 coming out of the bye with the rushing down, probably not going to be able to get there.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It was good. You mentioned that he was willing to run. I think that's important because they may not call as many plays for him, but if he's willing to run, like that's worth something. So I think 83, 85 is probably appropriate. I would agree. Kmet is in play if he continues to be around 5,000, I think, just because like he's playing well. So, and people probably not going to be as enthusiastic about him as they were after his like 6 touchdown stretch. Ezekiel Elliott continued to remain relevant for the Cowboys last night. He outsnapped Tony Pollard 54% to 43%. Pollard did still get 106 yards on 18 adjusted opportunities. In 3 games with Zeke being back, Pollard is at 119 yards from scrimmage per game, but his red zone share is 15.6%. He's scoring from outside the red zone to kind of mask that, but the red zone usage has been down. Zeke had 91 yards. That's his second straight game topping 90. That's the lone 2 times he has had 90 yards in scrimmage this year. He also tied a season high with 23 adjusted opportunities. Red zone share for Zeke is 31.3% in 3 games back. Zeke also ran more routes than Pollard for the second straight game. It was 12 to 11. So 2 questions. 1, what does this do for you with Pollard? And is Zeke in play next week against the Texans as 16.5-point favorites?
I think you can make the case that both are in play from a process standpoint, so long as the salaries are somewhat reasonable.
Yes.
I think they'll be a little bit too high for me.
Sure.
But in this specific game, like, sure, they both can get there. This offense is clicking. Dak is really good. And that makes me happy because I think some people don't think Dak's a very good quarterback, or he's just like, okay. But he's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the reality is like, and Chris Collinsworth referenced the yards per carry stats, which I know a lot, like it's the most common rushing efficiency stat that there is, but Zeke's much more successful on a rushing success rate basis. Pollard has more explosion. Like they're both still good.
Yeah.
And that's weird, right? Like we don't get a whole lot of running back situations where there's 2 guys involved and they're both actually really good. So name me salaries for Pollard and Zeke where you think they should be.
I think Zeke should be 67. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think he'll be higher than that.
Probably. But like I wouldn't rule him out even if he's a bit above that, honestly.
Yeah.
Pollard, I would say, so again, Aaron Jones with a better quarterback right now. I'm sticking with that comp. I think it's very fair. 78. Oh no, is he like 9,000?
Well, Zeke's 8,000.
What?
So
are you kidding me?
No, and Pollard's 75.
What?
I was gonna say,
am I on drugs?
I was gonna say 68 for Zeke, 78 for Pollard.
So we were gonna be right in line with each other.
Yeah, like more or less.
I think the case against Pollard is that they might not need him that much. Like that's the only case against him.
But are they also going to give?
I could see them giving
like an
Zeke a lot of work as like an FU kind of thing. Like here's to the haters. 93 carries for Zeke.
Did you hear that crowd like chanting Zeke like on the goal line like later in the game when they wanted to give him a touchdown?
I had it muted. I'm gonna be fully honest with you. I love Chris Collins. This is not a Collinsworth thing. Collinsworth is actually a pretty good analyst. This is not. I just had the game muted.
Well, we talked about it. Like, all right, I know I threw out the theory of like on Thanksgiving, I was like, they're gonna want to get Zeke like a touchdown. This team is connected to Zeke in a way that is unquantifiable.
Correct.
It's not the kind of thing that like we just throw out. This team's gonna just ride Zeke because they love Zeke. Like next week, it's not that. It's they do care a lot. Now, what I will say is he's had 16.6, 16, 17.2, 17.7, 15.1 FanDuel points over his past 5 games. He has scored once, twice, once in that sample. So that's 7 touchdowns in the past 5 games to get about 16 FanDuel points per game. I cannot play Zeke at 8,000 if that's what we're looking at.
No, because like the yardage upside isn't going to be like he's been very good the past couple weeks. He's playing well, but like he's not a huge yardage guy.
No,
so.
He's like to me right now, he's like a Jamal Williams plus.
Yeah,
where like
that's a fair comp.
He's got the double touchdown upside.
Sure.
He's got more than like 45-yard potential.
Yeah.
But I can't get there at 8,000.
I'm just kind of bummed because I was like, I could be very receptive to Zeke if he were in the 6,000. Just like, yeah, I can get behind that. But 8,000 is way different. Pollard though at 75, like, sure, I could do that. No questions. Like he played a 45% snap rate, but again, still had more than 100 yards.
Like these guys get a lot of work when they're on the field.
And also like the Cowboys they're not afraid to just kick butt like on the ground. And like if they can do it, they will, and they can do it against Texans. Yeah. So they're probably going to use both these guys a lot in that game before the game gets out of hand.
Yeah.
And what if it stays close? I don't think it will, but what if that's in the range of outcomes? So Pollard's very interesting at 75. I'm into that. We'll talk about Michael Gallup in the situations to monitor section. I forgot the word. Section. Raheem Mostert leapfrog Jeff Wilson as the Dolphins lead back, though didn't matter. Mostert 60% snap rate, Wilson 38%. Neither guy had more than 7 adjusted opportunities or 30 yards. They'll have better spots. Are you on a Mostert? You know, Wilson, what are we doing with this backfield?
So if you look at pass and run plays only, Miami had a pass rate over expectation of a positive 22.8%, which was the highest single game mark of any team this season. It makes sense. San Francisco, good rush defense. They have a better chance of beating them through the air. I don't want to say that like Miami's going to be matchup dependent, but if we notice that they have a tough rushing matchup, they might just
throw it 80 times. Yeah.
And
like so, Terran Armstead was doubtful for this game, which implies to me that he might be able to go. They're playing on Sunday night, so it doesn't really matter that much. But like he might be able to go next week. I think that was part of the reason that they were as ineffective as they were was because both the tackles were out. So I don't really care that the offense struggled there. Tua was just off all day. For probably one of the first times this year. I think you just kind of write it off. But the backfield is tough.
So I guess my question to you, like philosophically here, is they play the Chargers next week. Do you think they establish it?
I think they run more.
I think so too.
I think Mike McDaniel realizes that if they get Armstead back specifically, I think they kind of need him probably if they want to run the ball. But like, I don't know, maybe they could run with me at left tackle against the Chargers. I don't know. That might be a stretch, but also I wasn't fast enough to play left tackle, so that's not happening. But we'll kick one of their guards out to tackle, and I'll play guard instead.
There you go.
See what happens there. Yeah,
that solves everything.
I did want to touch on one thing. Go back to the Cowboys quick.
Oh.
Just because I want to get the stat on the show.
Okay.
League average success rate on late downs is 44.3%. Cowboys, since Dak returned, 57.3% success rate on late downs, unadjusted for opponent there. But like they have had a late down success rate of 2/3 or higher in half of those games. And they were at 58% another one. They're disgusting.
Seems good.
They're disgusting. Dak is good. Cowboys are good. They're going to roll. DeAndre Swift, Undertaker.gifting right in front of our eyes. He was playing in the second half with a 2-score lead. He finished with a 51% snap rate. That's his highest since week 8, which was his first game back off injury. They scaled him back after that. He also had 6 out of 12 red zone chances. That is his highest raw number and his highest rate of the year. Swift finished with 14 carries and 6 targets. That is his first time with more than 21 adjusted opportunities all year. So it seems broadly like they want him limited. We know Jamal Williams will still get goal line work, but Swift got decent work here. We know he's talented. So where are you on Swift after this game? Because I have a question for you after you give your broad thoughts. Just a broad question. Maybe this is me being paranoid, but go ahead.
Now I'm trying to think like.
So I'm worried they were up big and they know they have the Vikings next week and they still have a shot at the playoffs. Maybe they're like, okay, let's conserve Jamal. I'm a little bit worried about that.
I don't think that's the case.
Little bit worried.
I'm pretty sure I saw some quotes about like very positive.
Swift played a lot in the first half too. I know that's a dumb theory. Ignore me.
All right, let me look theory. Up. Okay, well, let me look up first half snap rates real quick.
Yeah, he was only 50% in the first half. It was the exact same as the second half. I'm wrong. You can ignore me. Give your thoughts on DeAndre Swift ignoring my paranoia.
I think it's great for Swift. I'm pretty sure I saw some quotes about Swift in a very positive sense in terms of like his health before the game.
From him?
No, from like the coaching staff. I don't want to say that without like.
Yeah. Do you know where it was? Because I want to find this.
It would have been on Twitter, so I don't know. Let's bring the show to a grinding halt because I think I saw something a couple days ago about Swift's health. But anyway, good role for Swift, and I think that we're just gonna have to adjust the running back gauge with Swift because his snap rate itself is probably going to be fairly low, but his involvement when he's on the field is going to be high. And you know, usually you don't want to like telegraph things like that, but some guys operate that way. And I'm fine if Swift plays 55% of snaps, but is treated more like a 65 to 70% snap rate because I think that's going to just keep the salary down. It's going to keep the ceiling capped to a big degree. But if they're playing Minnesota next week, it's going to be indoors either way, but they're at home. Like there's a chance that game stays close, and like they're just like, we're going to keep Swift out here, you know, in the fourth quarter because he's a lot better than Jamal Williams, and I think that they all know that.
It's also a really tough matchup on the ground, which could encourage them to use more of the guy who's better in the passing game, which is Justin Jackson. Sorry, DeAndre Swift. Lions still have 8% playoff chances per 538. Not bad. I think they care a lot, and I think that they're ramping it back up. I do want to read the coach speak if we hear it, because I think that my concern with Swift was not health. It was always coaching staff wanting him to be in that role. And if they're going to change their view of him, then I'll change my view of him in a hurry. So name me a salary for Swift against the Vikings next week in the game with the highest total by 4 points.
72.
I was thinking 68 because it's still annoying that Jamal takes work and we don't know that this is his new role. He's exactly 72. So you nailed that. Hey. High enough for me to be a little bit uncomfy still, but not out of play.
In that game, just like this past week, I'll be willing, I think, on a 10-game slate that doesn't have a ton of just two-sided back and forth games to go a little bit heavy. Jim's covering his face.
I looked at Dalvin Cook's salary and it's 87. Right. Give us one gimme. One. Just sneak one past the goalie.
They're making us
other than Tony Pollard.
They're making us putt out from like 1.5 feet here. No gimmies.
I can still miss. But it's a big upgrade for Swift. He's at least viable at 72, whereas I would have scoffed at that last week. So 11, I think it's very intriguing.
11.4% pass rate over expectation for them this week, by far their highest rate of the season.
And they're facing a team that forced the Jets with Mike White at quarterback to go pass heavy this week.
So,
Shark Week, 98 yards.
Great call. Will the salary come down from 12,300 though? Is that where it's set?
FanDuel's disrespecting DJ Chark by putting him at 57 next week.
Oh boy.
Monra is like 69,000, so he's 86. So I'll be on Chark again. What could go wrong? We'll talk about Jameson Williams in that in the situations to monitor section later on. Najee Harris returned to his usual role week 13. Both he and Jalen Warren healthy. Harris had a 66% snap rate, which is about where he had been until Warren missed time. Harris dominated backfield touches, played better again, which I think is encouraging for Najee. 17 carries and a target for 92 yards against a bad defense. It seems like Najee will maintain a featured role down the stretch, but is there enough from Najee and Pittsburgh for you to care?
I will say it's been positive to see, because I didn't know where the snap rates would wind up. He played 93% in the game that Warren played 4%, then Harris 30% back in week 12. So it's like, is this going to be like 50-50? They've been talking about Jalen Warren, but to see him at 66%, be kind of leaned on here. Seems like he's playing better. Maybe he's getting healthier specifically because he had that foot injury entering the year. But I don't quite know how often I want to be there with this offense. Like against Baltimore next week, if I'm playing Najee Harris, it's because of obligation due to a low salary. And I don't like to play guys simply because their salary is what catches my attention. I want to play guys whose roles catch my attention.
His role is okay.
Or role in situation, I should probably.
Yeah. And he has been better. So before, let's see here. Before week 10, so before their bye, he had maxed out at 89 yards in scrimmage. In his full game since the bye, he has 99, 116, and 92. Kind of been like Zeke, honestly. He's been a little Zeke-ish, which is rude. He's in his second year, but whatever. Little Zeke-ish, which is that's a positive thing I should note, to call him Zeke-ish. Now, next week they get Baltimore. Baltimore, since Roquan Smith came over, has been sick against the run. Just been a sick defense in general, but specifically sick against the run. So it's not a good matchup, but I would be receptive to Najee Harris if his salary came in at like $6,600.
I was thinking like mid, like 65 to 67 without a whole lot of conviction. 67.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll really get there in a game I'm not going to stack at all.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's fair. James Cook may have had a little bit of a breakout for the Bills. He played the same number of snaps as Devin Singletary at 44%, but he turned 14 carries and 6 targets into 105 yards in scrimmage. Cook also had 4 out of 14 red zone chances. Singletary has topped 100 yards once this year. He's had more than 5 targets once, and Cook topped both those marks in this game. So do you think this is a legit changing of the guard to the point where you'd consider Cook, or do you need to see more before you dive into this backfield?
I think it just takes Singletary out of play.
Definitely does
that. Keeps both of them like off the board.
Name me a salary for James Cook where you would be like, okay, you gave me some pause. Where you're like, okay, I'll consider this now.
It'd have to be under 6,000.
Like 58? Because I think that's where I'd put it.
Yeah.
He's 61. Not totally out of play. Because he's a running back. Meow. June's in. Or Benny.
Benny. Or Willie. There's a third now.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a lot of options here. But Bills, 9.5 point favorites. It might be a little bit heavy against the Jets next week. Very good defense. But, heavily favored. He is a running back who it seemed like they wanted to go out of their way to give more chances this past week. Mini bye. I think 61 is low enough where you're at least like, okay, I will give this a couple seconds of consideration.
Yeah, we'll learn more about the slate with the salary scroll. This is one of those spots.
Starved.
Yeah, but this is one of those spots where there's a difference between seeing a change and projecting more of a change. This might be what they do the rest of the way. This also might be like the harbinger of like he goes to the 44% snap rate, then like 60% next week, and then he plays like the Devin Singletary role from last year down the stretch. I don't know if there's enough juice in that role to chase it very often, but I won't knock it specifically at 61.
I think he has more juice than
Yes, but the running back, the RB1 for the Bills
But like, what if their running back has talent?
But
what if he actually has talent for once? It's been a while.
Are you saying they'll give him the ball more than Singletary, or that
I mean, they did
do more, or that he'll
26
do more?
adjusted opportunities in that game?
Yeah,
105 yards.
Yeah, I know.
He had 86 yards 2 games before that on 15 adjusted opportunities. He's got some juice.
And the Bills running the ball more.
Yeah. Heavier personnel a little bit. I think
he's like a half. He's a half right down.
How many ETNs on James Cook? What's your interest level? Because I'm at like 6.5, I think.
I was going to say 6.5.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the same page. Zonovan Knight led the Jets backfield and snap rate at 55%, even a negative game script. Knight had 90 yards on 15 carries and 28 more yards on 5 targets. Ty Johnson did run more routes, 26-23. He had more targets as well, 7-5, but Knight's role was overall a lot better. So let's say Michael Carter misses more time. Is there enough here for you to consider Knight in DFS?
Maybe. I need the salary to stay down because the offensive expectations are low. But if it's like the difference of maybe stacking a running back in a game that is like I have interest in the other side on, I think I'd be there. I would not, like similar to like a Najee situation, I'm not going to play him in games that I don't like the other side of.
Yeah. I don't know if I get there just because like he's going to lose some passing game work to Ty Johnson. I don't think I think they're playing better under Mike White, but it's still Mike White. And I want to make sure we don't get over enthusiastic there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. His salary is 63. It's fine.
James Cook or Zonovan Knight.
Zonovan Knight.
Specifically next week
Zonovan
in
Knight.
That game.
Zonovan Knight. I'm sorry. Whoa, wow. What am I talking about? James Cook. Oh my gosh. I was saying it so confidently.
Yeah, wow. I know.
Way to play the role of the white male, Jim, being confident and being wrong. Good job.
I was like, wait, am I misunderstanding literally everything?
Maybe you're the one who's on
what
drugs
we've been
now.
Talking about.
Yeah, no, James Cook. I think by a wide margin there. Sorry.
Yes.
You agree? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip the Broncos backfield. I'm not talking about them. Jahan Dotson played 79% of the Washington snaps this week, easily his highest snap rate since coming back from injury. 9 targets, 54 yards. He had a touchdown while running 89% of the routes. Dotson doesn't have a lot of yardage juice, but he's a good football player. We have considered pass catchers in this offense before. So is Dotson on your radar? And if not, does he take enough away from Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel to worry you there?
I think it's now 3 guys, and this offense can't support 3 guys. That's my main fear.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it is that simple. Where would I be surprised if one of these guys has a good game? No. Would I be surprised if the 3 of them collectively have like good production? No. Do I think that any of the 3 of them really have a path to making me regret saying why did I not play Jahan Dotson? Unless the salary is low for Dotson and Samuel, because it's going to be elevated for Terry always. So give me a salary range for Dotson.
Dotson specifically. So he has multiple deep targets in now 5 games. First time he's done so with Heineke, but it's also the first time he's played a lot of snaps with Heineke. Heineke sucks in terms of like deep balls because he has a noodle arm. He has dongle arm. Forgot that I have the prop here still. Like 54.
I'd have said like 57, just because I think he's good.
Yeah, I do too. It's your Penn State bias showing through.
Yeah. We
Dotson,
are, baby.
Oh, he's not on the main slate.
No, they're on bye. We got 6 teams on bye next week.
I think if he's in the mid to low 5,000s, I can consider him.
we got 6 teams on bye, and maybe 1 relevant DFS player. It's Atlanta,
Fields?
Chicago.
Is Justin Fields the one relevant DFS player?
I was thinking Jonathan Taylor too. So, but like,
who's that?
It's Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and Washington. We're not going to feel that one too much.
New England is playing on Monday night. That's great. Don't care.
Yeah.
The Chargers and Dolphins.
But
that stinks to lose them.
Arizona, though, I don't have to play the Alvin Kamara game.
I don't have to sweat Devonta Adams having 97,000 yards against me.
Yeah, I don't have to. Yeah, that's a good one. Don't got to worry about Justin Fields.
I don't have to sweat Cam Akers getting 60 yards.
I don't have to worry about Kyler on the main slate.
I don't have to sweat the defense facing the Rams. I should phrase it that way. That's good.
So
I don't have to consider the Raiders defense as a punt option. That's enticing. That's exciting for me. So
yeah.
Okay. Situations to monitor. What else stood out to you across Sunday or Thursday, I guess?
Not really a role change, but Travis Etienne returned to the elite role that he had, 87% snap rate. So they did not limit him after the injury in week 12, which he could have returned, but didn't. So great to see that. Talked about the Ravens offense already with Tyler Huntley, but we saw Kenyon Drake lead the backfield on snap rate at 48%, Gus Edwards 25%, Justice Hill 23%. Dobbins might be mixed back in. Like there's nothing relevant for DFS here. These guys don't have a single game ceiling that's worth targeting. Isaiah Pacheco, 46% snap rate, same as Jerick McKinnon, but 10 routes to McKinnon's 13, so a little bit narrower there than you might expect. But as someone who's heavily invested in Pacheco, the red zone role is concerning.
Yeah, he scored again, but it wasn't good usage.
Yeah, 55% red zone opportunity share for Jerick in that game, 18% for Pacheco. Seems weird because it seems like Pacheco's the kind of guy you hand the ball to and he just runs full speed.
Also, it's very dangerous to give McKinnon the ball because he chucked the ball he was chucking it at the stands, but it almost hit a photographer and he just looked angry. And I was like, okay, let's take it back 16 notches here, Jerick.
But yeah, so it looks like Isaiah Pacheco would run full speed into anyone who was in front of him at the goal line.
Yeah,
Jerick McKinnon actually did that. It was just his own offensive lineman. So I mean, I understand the versatility, the passing game usage in inside the 20, but that's concerning. So I can't really bump up Pacheco substantially. I still have a lot of concerns there.
Pacheco ran 10 routes, and I think they were all on the first drive. He had 2 targets to open the game and didn't get another the entire day. I
don't know why teams do that.
I don't know either.
Same offense though. Marquez, Valdez, Scantling, 62% route rate, so that was down. But 6
I'm taking my headphones out. You're not gonna sing your siren song about it's not your siren song. I'm just not allowed to hear stuff about him. So I'm gonna take my headphones out. Go ahead. 4
downfield targets, 2 for 71. There's still potential there, but it's just a weird situation for MVS. I think you have a note on this later, but Corey Davis, 10 targets this week, but the passing volume was way up, 58 dropbacks, an 18% target share. At a certain point, target share doesn't do enough if it's a super pass heavy situation, but I think I'm going to chase the 10 targets necessarily. Kind of the guy I had envisioned whenever we started doing the situations to monitor section last year was Nico Collins.
What?
What?
You envision Nico Collins?
Yeah, because I was like, there's going to be guys that we don't talk about who are super relevant, but maybe have some notes on them. And I was like, what if Nico Collins is getting 10
Define
targets?
Super relevant. Define super relevant.
All the role changes and injuries?
No, you said, what if there are some guys who have usage that's super relevant?
It's not super relevant.
Oh, okay.
I probably just mumbled, which I've been known to, which is great for a podcast. But since week 10, Collins, 10, 7, 9, and 10 targets, but no more than 50 yards in any of those games. That's tough. This one's for you, Jim. Tutu Atwell, 4 carries.
Why is that for me? Oh, okay. Carries. Sorry.
And 1 in the red zone. But also,
don't you dare tie me to Tutu Atwell. This is worse than Poulter.
I realized I should look for I should just every week, every Monday morning, look at which receivers got rushes. 2 that stood out to me: CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, 2 carries each. Not necessarily something that they do a lot of, but I will take that. And final thing, doesn't really matter much, but the Broncos got Mike Boone back, and they still featured Latavius Murray.
Why do you do this?
67% snap rate. Was leaned on early and often. 17 carries.
I muted your mic. I've muted you. You can't talk anymore. My situations to monitor. Michael Gallup had a... Nah. I can do it again. I can kick you out of the broadcast if you need me
to. You skipped over it. I'm just saying...
No. Okay. See ya. Michael Gallup had another good game on a Sunday night. He had 4 red zone targets and 2 touchdowns on 7 total looks. His target share is up to 20% since the team's bye week, with 29% of the deep targets. Dalton Schultz at 17% with a lot in the red zone. CeeDee Lamb doing CeeDee Lamb stuff. They're a very good offense with 3 reliable, viable pass catchers. They're probably not going to throw more than 20 times next week, but once they're pushed, I'm going to love Michael Gallup once again. Drake London had 12 targets on Sunday, which was half of the team's looks. 3 of those were deep, and he turned into 95 yards. If we look at the 3 games without Kyle Pitts, London is at 7.7 targets per game with 1.7 deep per game. That's better than it was. We know the floor is still 0, but it's getting better. They're on bye this week, but it's at least getting better. Jamison Williams debuted, but in a limited fashion. He played 8 snaps on offense and ran just 2 routes. A couple of those were kneel downs. He was supposed to play gunner on special teams, but they never punted because Jared Goff is the best quarterback who's ever existed. Khalif Raymond's playtime collapsed. Josh Reynolds ran 33 routes. DJ Chark ran 41. King Chark. Chark had more routes than Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's better. So it seems like Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown relatively safe, even as Williams' role expands. But Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, do not consider them. I think that they're off the table. In all seriousness, do you think DJ Chark is in play next week at $5,700 against the Vikings?
I played him in our head-to-head against one another this week, so
I still beat your butt. I have to brag because that doesn't happen very often anymore. So you're beating me.
Now...
You can clinch in the season-long standings like next week, I'm pretty sure. So I got to brag while I can. Just let me have this. I had a really bad week. I need to lean on that. Dameon Pierce had a perfect setup for Sunday. Still did nothing. He had 95 yards. His snap rate was 74%, even with Rex Burkhead being inactive. They had 17,000 possessions due to all the Browns' defensive touchdowns, and he still did nothing. I don't think Pierce can burn us for not using him. I will need extreme circumstances to be there. Cam Akers, 73% snap rate. Who cares?
You get to talk about Cam Akers, but I can't talk about Latavius Murray.
You're right. Moving on. Jelani Woods had a huge game on. I'd rather talk Jelani Woods than freaking Latavius Murray. Jelani Woods had a huge game Monday night last week, but they put him back in the dumpster with Colin Granson active this week. Woods ran 11 routes on 40 dropbacks. Granson ran almost double that. Woods did earn 4 targets on those 11 routes because he's good at football, but we need to shift here to use him on a main. They hate us and they hate efficiency. Let's go now to philosophical changes. This is where I have the note on the Jets. In Mike White's second start, the Jets were super pass heavy, 70% early down first half pass rate. They were under 50% last week. This is likely matchup related as the Vikings have a very good rush defense, but it led to huge volume. Garrett Wilson, 15 targets. Corey Davis, 10. Both guys had 85 yards at least. White didn't play well, but their faith in him, I think, is encouraging and it led to volume. So how are you viewing Garrett Wilson right now? And you talked briefly about Davis, but can you consider any of the non-Wilson guys in this offense?
I think it's just Wilson. Like I said, I had passing interest in Knight if it's like the right situation. I don't think as underdogs next week.
Where are you on Wilson now in that matchup?
I assume the salary will be a bit high for me, but he's going to be the only relevant piece to bring it back with.
Mm-hmm.
One note, just about like the Vikings defense specifically, they have the highest catch rate over expectation allowed to receivers, probably just because their run defense is so good.
DJ Chark, do.
So for Wilson, he's got to have a 7 in front of his salary at this point. I'll say 7,000.
Well, with his, I don't know, with his volume, I might say 73. I think is where I'd go. 72. That's fair. We've had a lot of fair salaries this week, which is upsetting. What?
Yeah, it leads to fewer write-downs, but also fewer although we had the Zeke one, I think that took enough of the egregiousness.
Yeah, it's true.
For the whole week.
Okay, what other notes did you have across this week?
Miami really pass heavy against the 49ers. I already mentioned this, but highest single game pass rate over expectation of any team all season. Makes sense, but maybe Miami's a little bit more sensitive to being a team that adjusts for what the opponent does well, which can be good and bad depending on how good your offense is. Detroit with DeAndre Swift healthier, pass rate over expectation of 11.4%, by far their highest rate of the season. I think that elevates me on Swift, which is why I was a little bit higher on him than you. I also love DeAndre Swift, and I know that he's good. Similar to the Dolphins, though, the Eagles really pass heavy against a good rush defense. 10.7% pass rate over expectation, which is their second highest of the season. Higher than that was Week 8 against Pittsburgh, which is another good run defense. So, we've seen them not force it against teams that have like low ADOTs allowed. It seems like this team is just smart enough to figure out how to win. That's relevant for me. I don't want to panic for these final two teams here, but they're both really relevant. And part of why they were relevant is because they threw the ball so much, and now they're not. But it's the Chiefs and the Bills. Something's been different with the Chiefs. I don't think it's just Isaiah Pacheco, but over the past, or this week against Cincinnati, pass rate over expectation, minus 0.7%. So basically even. Combined over the past 3 games, still a +3. But entering that stretch, they were a league high 13.6%. So I think it's something to think about. Mahomes was maybe not fully healthy at points in that game, looked a little bit slower. Just kind of want to throw that out there. And then for the Bills, almost the same exact thing. Minus 4% pass rate over expectation this week. Their second lowest of the year. Lowest was actually in week 11, so pretty recent. Over their past 3, they're now at a -1, but entering they were a plus 10.9, so almost 11 plus 11 there. Neither team is going full run first. That's not what this is, but they went from being outliers and just slinging it regardless of game script to now throwing it about as expectation goes. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I don't think this says don't play these passing offenses, but it is something that's worth monitoring for sure.
And I think with the Chiefs, it's probably due to the injuries at receiver, because they've gone with more heavy personnel, getting like Noah Gray. Like Noah Gray's playing a lot of snaps, and so is Jody Foster / Jody Fortson. So I think they're just going with heavier personnel, and it's working. They get the Broncos next week. They're obviously heavily favored in that game. It is a Melvin Gordon revenge game. I'd assume he'll be active for that exact reason. But would you consider Pacheco in that script? We talked about the concerns we have, but like you said, getting a little bit run heavier. He's had 80+ yards in scrimmage in now 4 straight games. You prefer to attack Denver on the ground versus through the air. Any interest?
He was 7,000 this week. If his salary went up much,
what if it came down, hypothetically?
If it came down, yes. If it's above 70, because what was Swift, 72?
Went up to 73. So
Swift or Pacheco next week?
Probably Swift.
Yeah.
Okay. Other question, circling back. We talked about the 49ers offense with Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do with them if Baker Mayfield were their quarterback? Because Baker's getting waived by the Panthers today. This is just breaking now. It could be a Christian McCaffrey Baker Mayfield reunion that no one asked for.
Imagine.
This is a joke, by the way. I don't want you to actually answer this.
No,
probably not going to happen. But
just imagine like last year,
Baker Mayfield and the 49ers.
No,
with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, we're going to get Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey reuniting with the 49ers.
Oh, what a sentence.
Wait, what did I miss?
Maybe the Texans will sign him and just complete the full circle of that Browns trade. Yeah. I love Baker, so I feel sorry about all this, but it is what it is. Let's go to our salary scroll for week number 14. Open up the week 14 main slate over on FanDuel.com, going position by position and shouting out things that are noteworthy to us. Starting off at quarterback, Brandon, what are you noticing there?
I see Patrick Mahomes at 88, Josh Allen at 87, and Jalen Hurts at 87. Pretty tough matchups for both Mahomes and Allen, less so for Hurts. I think it's going to be the default assumption that I want to play Jalen Hurts this week because he's very good at football and he has 2 guys to stack with, one of whom seems to be under salaries.
I think that all that applies to Burrow as well at 83.
Yes,
he's running more now, which I think means we should actually account for that when talking about him.
Not that anyone cares, but I had a matchup. I have season long. I have Joe Burrow. I was facing Jalen Hurts. When Jalen Hurts got 34 or so this week and that scoring system, I was like, I think Burrow can have a good game, but I don't know if he get 34. He almost did because he got to like 30 with that drop Tyler Boyd touchdown. But I think that's enough for me to really try to prioritize Jalen Hurts a little bit more.
I was listening to the Athletic Football Show this morning, and Nate Tice on there said the Bengals have called 21 design runs for Joe Burrow this year, whereas they called 11 all of last year. A lot of those were on Sunday. He had 11 carries. I think some of ththem were kneel downs. I'll figure that out later. But I think he had 8 actual carries for like 49 yards and a touchdown. He's running more than he was. I find that very interesting.
I have him at 9 carries, excluding the kneel downs.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's noteworthy.
It is.
Personally. Okay. What else do you see at quarterback?
What do we got here?
We got Kirk Cousins at 75. I have not thought about Kirk Cousins this entire season in terms of DFS.
Yeah.
But against the Lions, maybe?
Geno against the Panthers, 77.
I just don't think that game shoots out.
Yeah.
Like Darnold's been better than their other quarterbacks, but like, is there a path to that game featuring 60 points?
But like Geno was good this past week. It wasn't like.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, DK coming through, free boy.
Yeah. Kirk has not had more than 23.5 FanDuel points here. I'm not sure I should go there even against the Lions, but Jared Goff is 71. They're going to go super pass heavy against a pass funnel defense.
Deshaun 7,000.
Apparently Dan Campbell gave the game ball to DJ Chark this week, by the way.
Let's go.
I am Dan Campbell.
Would you consider Watson?
No. I just don't want to root for him. Like, I think if I weren't considering that, he'd be worth considering, but would you rather use Goff or Cousins in that game?
Probably Goff.
I think I'd rather go Goff too. Goff has only 1 rush attempt inside the red zone this year. Coward. Run it more. Okay. Anything else at quarterback?
Does Ryan Tannehill have a pulse? No, I guess not. No, with Jalen Burks out.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to your running back. What do you see there?
Trends off pretty quickly. It's hard not to see Zeke and somehow JP Ryan at 8,000 and 7,800 respectively, and just question what's happening.
Everything. Yeah. I think Saquon having his salary down to 82 is interesting. The Eagles' rush defense has been trending back up, but that's not a terrible game. Saquon hasn't done a lot recently, but that's kind of because he's like a volatile runner. It could be because he's lost like explosion because they've used him too much, but like, I still think
he's really getting boosted by touchdowns lately too. The receiving yardage is down.
Yeah, he hasn't had. His receiving usage is up because he's had 5, 6, and 5 targets, but his yardage has been pretty bad for now 3 consecutive games. But like it's kind of like a Nixon thing where an explosion is still within his range of outcomes. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think
CTN's salary is down to 74. Really, really, really tough ground matchup, but it's good for a dynamic player.
I think, honestly, of anyone so far, Tony Pollard has my interest the most at 75, specifically in that matchup.
I don't disagree.
I'm not going to love Pacheco at 73. I'll have interest in DeAndre Swift at 72, but none of these guys so far have been like, I'm plugging him into our head-to-head lineup.
Depending on Rachaad White's usage on Monday night, he's $6,800. Lenny, I'm expecting to play.
Yeah.
Really tough ground matchup against San Francisco, but like the odds of a positive script are at least higher without Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'd like to see Fournette play just to see what that looks like.
Me too. I agree. I do think James Cook at 61 is worth giving thought to. I don't know if I would use him yet, but like I think we need to talk about him at least.
I think running back is bad enough and quarterback is good enough at the top end, but bad enough on the low end. where this by nature has to open up receiver in the flex for me this week.
Fair. So, speaking of which, let's go to wide receiver. What do you see there?
Justin Jefferson, 93 against the Lions.
Yikes.
Could be too low, but
I'm going to want to get there.
Yeah.
Like, he's worth that. And the Monroe St. Brown, same thing at 86. I joke about Chark being the best player in the history of football, but Amon-Ra's usage is very good. He had 2 touchdowns on Sunday, but also got tackled at the 1 on another. Like, he just consistently gets used in that area of the field. He's sick.
I think the best play so far among running backs and receivers is T. Higgins at 78.
Although I'd push back and say Devontae Smith at 7,000 might be better than T even.
Yes, but as we've gotten like through all the running backs and then down to 78, I think Higgins is the name that I'm most likely to want to write down.
I think this furthers your argument too that we should be very receptive to receiver in the flex, because our 2 favorite guys so far are probably Higgins at 78 and Devontae at 7,000, and they're both receivers.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling and don't see a whole lot else at wide receiver. Gave the Babes down to 62. Boy. Hasn't had the best usage, but like also has not been irrelevant. He's going to have a very tough matchup against the Jets. Tremendous secondary. Played very well so far this year. But gave the Babe in the 2 games with McKenzie up 5 and 7 targets. It's not the worst. We know that he can explode.
Yeah. Maybe DPJ 61.
Potentially, yeah.
I know that we literally just joked about this, but Nico Collins is 59 in a game.
No.
Worth it.
No.
He's going to see 10 plus targets.
His team can't score 2 touchdowns, which means he can't.
That's
and
true.
He hasn't had 85 yards in since college. Actually, they were a run heavy team in college. He may not have gotten even, that many yards there. I'm going to actually find this. When is the last time Nico Collins? It's probably this year. But go ahead. You keep talking about receiver. I'm going to look up some Nico Collins slander.
Sure, I'll let you know when I find anything that really jumps out to me.
He's not at 85 yards yet this year.
Chark at 57?
Yes. Hell yes.
Like, there's an outside chance for Tyler Boyd at 59 that I'd get there.
Okay. I'm going back to college for Nico Collins, by the way. Okay. Career game logs in college for Nico Collins. The last time he had 85 yards was pre-COVID. So no, I'm not doing it.
I really think that my lineup is going to start with like Jalen Hurts, T, Devontae, and like Chark.
Yeah.
I really do.
I'm glad that I'm not alone on this. I need to sanity check on him because like I'm into him, but I feel better about that.
I don't think I'd quite get there, but if I want to have some exposure to the other side of a Jalen Hurts stack, and we're really scrounging for not just like value, but even any great plays, Isaiah Hodgins is running a lot of routes for the Giants at 55. If I'm assuming that Hurts and like Devontae and AJ Brown are relevant, I could see maybe getting to Hodgins at 55 just because everything else is so bad.
I just don't think there's a path to like huge upside there.
But there are, if that's our criteria for receivers this week,
Isaiah McKenzie 56, DJ Chark 57. There are guys in that range who actually do have juice. Tyler Boyd, maybe if Hayden Hurst being out.
Well, if you weren't looking up Nico Collins stats, you heard I said.
I know. I'm just saying, like, there are guys there. It's not totally barren.
There are 3 guys I'd feel good about, like with a pulse and a chance for a big ceiling. So
that's better than usual.
But at running back in the value range,
nothing,
not much. So
yeah. Okay, so I've got If you do Jalen Hurts with Devontae T. Chark, like you mentioned, I'm going to put Chigakonkwo in at tight end just for funsies. I don't know if I'll actually wind up doing that, but let's just do it for funsies. And defense. What is the Kansas City defense? 254 or 45. That's not high. Not too bad. I'll find a defense here in a second. Pittsburgh's defense is 30 against Tyler Huntley. There we go. Okay, so I got 74 left. You can make that work. It's not pretty, but that means we can get to Pollard. That's good.
But that's 74 for a flex and 2 running backs.
Yeah. So I think that furthers the wide receiver in the flex agenda. Or you can go Pollard, Shark, and Swift. Or Pacheco. Or Pollard, ETN, sorry. Pollard, ETN, and Swift. But then that also means instead of Swift in the flex, I could go with like Garrett Wilson or something. So yeah. Receivers very live for flex this week. Anything else at receiver, or should we go to tight end?
Let's go to tight end.
Okay. We have Travis Kelce at 8,000. Nobody else above 7. Mark Andrews at 68. Likely with Tyler Huntley. What else see at tight end? TJ Hawkinson in season revenge game. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
I'm not going to be able to get to Dalton Schultz as 90,000 point favorites. George Kittle, 59. Is that low enough?
No. Not with the quarterback situation. Pat Freiermuth at 58. Not a great matchup. Not a great game, but he keeps showing yardage upside. He had 57 yards on 1 catch on Sunday. So I could be back there again for sure and be fine with that.
I'd say Dulcich at 54 in a game where
sure
they won't score 21 points, but they should try to.
So after seeing tight end, do you still consider Okonkwo to viable at 48?
Yeah, I'd say Okonkwo, Dulcich, Freiermuth, probably going to be the main angles for me, and Kelce will be a great tournament play.
I agree with all that as well. Okay, let's finish up here with the note to future me, and I think it's been pretty laid out for us where the note to future me should be we need to be very receptive to wide receiver in the flex in week 14. That's something I don't do enough, but I think this week I maybe making my default, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that was my idea, so that's also my note to future me.
Sorry.
But
if anything else you wanted to note here?
This might be the kind of week where stacks, I usually force stacks, but maybe I back off of that a little bit because a lot of these games seem one-sided.
Yeah. Do I want to force in a Giant in my Hurts teams? Maybe not. Maybe, Saquon's fine. Slayton's fine. I can do that, but I don't want to force it with them. Do I want to force in a Brown when I think a lot of them are pretty high salaried? Chubb, okay, I can get there. Amari, I can get there. DPJ, I can get there. But I think that, being receptive to not bringing it back on my quarterback teams, I think that's probably viable as well. Okay. That is all that we have here for today for the recap show, but we'll give a full preview of the week 14 main slate coming up on Thursday. That'll be live on the FanDuel YouTube page, 10 a.m. Eastern, and then up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed after that. So go search for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe, and if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Brandon, if people have questions for you on the tweeters, where can they find you there?
I'm on Twitter at Gdula13, GDULA13.
And I'm on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your single game lineups for Saints at Bucks. We'll talk to you once again Thursday to preview week 14. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.